From ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California, this is BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
All right, I want to welcome everybody out to BizNinja Radio here on ABC News Radio, and I have a really cool guest today, someone who I'm excited to learn about and learn his journey. We have Gary Brackett, former linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts, but now starting something really cool and legendary at a restaurant called Stacked Pickle. Welcome out to the show, Gary.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
So I love talking with professional athletes turned professional entrepreneurs because I think that there's something about that level of success and self-discipline from being an athlete at that level that translates into being a successful entrepreneur. Why don't you give us a little bit of kind of a quick background on your journey from pro athlete to entrepreneur? Was that just a natural thing for you?
Yeah, I think it was natural in the fact that my whole life, I've been an entrepreneur from cutting grass as a kid, shoveling snow, shelling. I was from New Jersey, so Rita's water ice was big. So we would buy the tub of water ice and then sit across the street from an apartment complex and sell it on the weekend, right? So I've always been an entrepreneur. So like you said, playing in the NFL, I felt like there was a bunch of transferable skills. You know, the discipline that it takes to play at that level is enormous. And I tell people all the time, in my case in particular, I was a 9-year player. I was a captain on the team for 6 years of those 9 years. So won a Super Bowl, went to another Super Bowl, lost. In fact, our team, the Colts, in the 2000 eras was the most winningest team in any decade of football.
Wow!
And for me, I was the defensive linebacker and also the captain. So I tell people I wasn't a football player. I was a chief defensive officer. So, $1 billion business, 100, 200 employees, and I'm one of the guys making a lot of decisions, making sure the engine is going. So a lot of those skills transfer over to football, and I think restaurants as the ultimate team sport.
Interesting. I want to dissect that a little bit because there's a lot of really important, pieces and nuggets in there. So let's back up a little bit, growing up in Jersey and hustling the way you were, and then you had a legendary career as a football athlete. I mean, most football players your career is what they wish, right?
Right.
Play for 9 years for a major team, win a Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl at all. You went twice, and then, being able to be a leader on that. But you weren't drafted. And I love that about your story, right?
Sure.
Because that shows that your tenacity and your ability to, stay optimistic in face of, maybe not the perfect journey. Tell me a little bit about that. I mean, you were signed as an undrafted free agent, right?
Yeah, and then even better, it's funny, I have a book that will actually turn into a movie. So that's totally never
awesome.
But winning is in the side of the book. Yeah, so I also was a walk-on in college as well. I was just one of those kids that, never took no for an answer. And I was stubborn about my goals, which was to play in the NFL. And for me, it was by any means necessary. So not getting a scholarship into college initially, then not getting drafted to the NFL, would have just meant for me, I just had to work harder. And I got no problem rolling up my sleeves and working hard. And as you mentioned, the NFL is a cutthroat business. We always kid the NFL stands for not for long. The average career is about 3 years, 3.5 years. So to play for 9, it was a dream come true. But it was because of all the hard work, all the discipline. And I always would say when I played, I'm a 5'10", 230-pound human. And I would always say that I played from the neck up. I watched film. I studied great players. I understood the game. And it's no different than what I'm doing now. There's a bunch of literature on restaurants. There's a bunch of literature on franchising. And I'm doing the exact same thing, just being a student of the game. And I understand that the amount of time it took for me to be successful in football is the same amount of time it involves me to be successful outside of the game. So I'm willing to put in that work, and I want to be great at what I do now.
That's awesome. And so, you're willing to. I love the concept of playing from the neck up and really understanding the intelligence behind the game. I've found that people who that are good, like at an average or above average level, but not exceptional level of physicality, can become great by training their mind and training their brain and learning how to manipulate their body and do even greater things. I think some of the greatest athletes out there are the ones who focus on their mind first. And I think, that's how business is. Oftentimes the people who are the most successful aren't necessarily the most purest, rawest talents.
Sure.
They just have learned to be focused and disciplined and, follow proven things of what works and look for the opportunities, really the core basic.
And not give up, right? I mean, so many people that are successful, that are talented, either gave up or never, went after their dream because, they were scared. So I think it really takes guts, it takes a lot of hard work and that willingness to be brave. Being an entrepreneur is definitely about being brave, right? Realize you're the last to eat, but, right. Your portion is usually the largest.
So you come out of the NFL, amazing career, and one of the things you wanted to do in continue training your mind. You went and you got an MBA. So just like showing yourself, showing the world you're not just talking about this concept, right? You went and got more education, and then is the Stacked Pickle? Was this your first entrepreneurial thing coming out of professional sports, or have you done other things too?
Yeah, it was my first thing. And going back to George Washington University in D.C., get my MBA, I think for me, it was all about sharpening the saw, right? I feel like everyone has this toolbox, that they have access to. But for me, for the longest time, I only used one tool, which was the hammer, right? So I was just banging my head. So going back to school, I feel like I was able to sharpen the saw, sharpen some other tools that's in my toolbox to kind of use in my business endeavors. And for me, the Stacked Pickle was an opportunity, for me in Indianapolis was to monetize my brand. People, they knew me, they liked me, but how do I get paid off of that, right? Walking around shaking hands does not pay bills. So for me, understanding the business mindset behind it, and initially I was a silent partner and I had a guy who was doing a lot of the work and then we would communicate on new locations. But then I had the opportunity to purchase the brand 3 years ago and we really just got the ball and started running with it.
Oh, interesting. So when you started, it was kind of just a silent investment idea. And now you're hands-on, rolling up those sleeves, like you said, you don't mind doing. Right. And now you're looking at a bigger picture. So, you started 7 years ago,
Sure.
3 years ago, you get more involved. How many locations do you guys have now?
So we now have 9 locations. Looking forward to opening our 10th here, hopefully by September. I always try to get stores open before football season, fantasy draft. Football obviously a huge time of year for a sports bar, right. Imagine. But then we just started franchising, about 3 months ago, and had 2 or 3 people come in for discovery days, learn about the brand, learn about the concept. So I'm very much looking forward to growing the brand through franchising. I had one other professional athlete come out, and I'm really just trying to teach people, how to make money for themselves, how to own their own brand, and what is required of them in order for them to be successful in it.
Franchising is an interesting thing because, restaurants are a tough business.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's, sometimes there's a joke that there's 2 great ways to lose money, open a restaurant or just drive down the street and throw money out the window. But the concept of a franchise is that they've taken some of that learning curve and they've shortened it up, right? It's kind of like they've watched a bunch of tape for you. And now they're saying, hey, here's the summary, here's the proven model, here's what's going to work. And so you're able to, theoretically reduce a lot of risk by saying, hey, these are the things that work. Here's the policy and procedure. Here's how the food gets made. Here's the system. And so you're able to transplant that proven system to a franchisee, right? And someone coming in. One of the things that you guys pride yourself on is legendary customer service. What is legendary customer service? And how are you guys actually, is that just, so many people say they have great customer service, but really it's not really a part of their culture. How are you guys making that a part of your culture that's transferable and that can scale?
Yeah, so for us, it's all about being that neighborhood sports bar and grill, right? And I think our goal is to be 3 to 5 mile radius and own that market. So one thing, our general manager is going to be involved in the community. Right? We preach local store marketing and getting out in the community and all the athletic fields and everything else and having a relationship there. And that's where we spend a lot of our sponsorship dollars, right? We don't go after large billboards or our commercials. We want you in your community spending money inside of your community.
Right.
Usually that in turn have them come back inside the house. And then in terms of inside the team, like I said, I've been on championship teams. So I know how to build a culture inside of a team. And that's the same inside of a restaurant with the type of learning tools of respect. We have digital training programs that our servers go on and they understand our menu. Then they understand how to take care of the guests. We want you to come in and we want little Johnny in a baseball uniform. You want to engage. And how many hits did you have? Did you hit a home run, right? And having the flexibility to come out, bringing him a cookie pie as a present. So having that type of relationship in your community, I feel like does a lot well for other concepts where, they have name tags on and they could care less. You're just a number. They just want to burn the turntables. Where we don't. We want to engage with our guests and have them come back, and become regulars.
Oh, that's awesome. So I think that is something that a lot of businesses lose, especially when they begin franchising, is they lose that personal touch, the plug into the community, right? So they think, well, we're a part of the community simply by being present. And I like that you're talking about, no, you're going to reach out, you're going to, probably coordinate stuff with the local high schools and really be active as a part of the community. I think that that gets lost in a lot of today's businesses, right? Where they're no longer wanting to really be actively involved. And I think that's a great concept that you guys are doing. What's your guys' goals for Stacked Pickle over the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, so I have like a franchise business plan. So we want to sign 4 franchises this year, 6 next year, and probably 6, for the next few years after that. In addition to that, corporate stores, we're probably going to open up anywhere from 1 to 3, depending on franchise and the support. And it all comes down to human capital. Right. You only grow as fast as the people on your team are prepared to grow. So never want to lose sight of that and just grow just for the sake of growing and not a good product. So being conscious of that, but I feel like on the franchise side, we can do a much better job of, for a franchisee, we need a couple people at the corporate office, 3-4 people. To open up my own stores, 40 to 50 people.
Right.
So it's just a different model in terms of scale. So I really think in the next, 5 years, we could have 30, 40 restaurants and really be considered one of the premier neighborhood sports bars in the nation.
Very cool. And so you guys right now, everything is based around Indianapolis. Where are you guys looking to grow to?
Yeah, so we had conversations with a gentleman from Ohio. Ohio is a very similar market than us, Midwest. Then actually another gentleman from Tampa Bay. I think there's a lot of transplants from the Midwest down there in Florida. I hope to be in Florida at some point in my adult life. But yeah, so I think, it's a sports bar. It's TVs, it's cold beer, it's service. There's wraps, there's salads. So it's really something on our menu for everyone. So I really think that we can really play well in a lot of communities.
Very cool. And so, we'll come back and kind of loop in more of what you're doing now. I want to talk a little bit through your career and how I think your career is part of what helped develop you, right? And allow you to start doing and having the tenacity and the the goals about what you're building now. And so tell me, we talked about how you fought your way and you walked on to college, and then you signed as an undrafted free agent. And your first couple of years with the Colts, you were a backup. How did you fight your way to being from backup to being a starter and becoming the team captain? Tell me a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I go by the model, act as if, right? So act as if whatever you want to be. So if I always wanted to be the captain, I wanted to be the leader, I wanted to be the starter, that doesn't start the day when you get named the starter, right? It gets for me, it got started the day that I got, to Indianapolis and become a member of the Indianapolis Colts. And then just through my practice habits, during practice, outside of practice, through my film study, through my efforts in the weight room. So everything I did, my mind was prepared to be the starter. And I think as soon as the opportunity came, I took it and ran with it. And it wasn't something that was like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm out here with all these other guys. I was like, no, this is my purpose. I should be out here and I'm going to show you how it's done. So I think having that mentality as act as if you want to be the CEO of the company, act as the CEO. Right? Dress like the CEO.
Right.
The CEO. Read books like you're a CEO. Right? So that mentality that, if you're going to do something, you have the ability to get it done, but you first have to convince yourself in your mind before it becomes a reality.
I do think it's interesting. It's always fun watching, right after, the draft is finished and you start seeing all these young college kids show up onto the pro team and get starstruck by people that are now their peers and teammates. But in their mind, they're still like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in the same locker room. And so that's a hard balance to have the humility, but still act as if. Now, a big thing that I noticed and kind of look into your career is 2003 you signed, but it wasn't as if life was perfect at that time. You got hit with a massive amount of adversity. How did you overcome that adversity and still keep that act as if mindset up?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's tough. I think it's documented in my book also, Winning, from Walk on the Captain of Football and Life. But I lost my father that October during the season. That February, I lost my mother. At the same time, my brother was diagnosed with cancer, and I lost him 12 months later. So in an 18-month time span, I lost my father, my mother, and my brother. And it was some very, dark times for me, just losing that many members of your core family group. It was really challenging. But for me, my mom always told me, that you're a blessing to continue to bless others and to take advantage of your opportunities. And I always believed in the way you honor your dad is how you live. And, at some point in my life, I was like, man, I just want to, go home and cry and mourn. And everyone's like, you have every reason to give up right now. I mean, your world has been shattered. But then there's the other side is like, no, you have every reason to live every day like it's going to be your last. Right. Because life is so precious. So that's when I act as if my mentality really just continued to thrive. It's just like, tomorrow's not promised for you. And if you had opportunity and you didn't take it, then shame on you, right? Have no regrets. Like I'm sure my brother wish he had more life right now. So how can you care or complain about your legs being sore, right? Or about it being challenging, or about you having to overcome adversity, right? So it was just like, so what now what? And then for me, it was just like, all right, let me continue to honor these folks. And really, I feel like they're angels looking down on me. And every day of my life is really glorifying them.
There's an article I read once a long time ago called The Cheering Section. And it talks about all those people that have gone before us that are now cheering for us to live the best life possible for us that we can do, right? And so you rallied through that cheering section of yours. And, I think it's really inspirational that you fought through that and chose, instead of allowing your mourning to tear you down, you allowed it to build you up. And I think that's really a remarkable thing. And you've got in 2009, you were given the Arthur Arkush Humanitarian Award. And that just shows you kept focusing on giving back and kept showing, on contributing to others. And I think it sounds like you learned that from your mother and have continued to do that. How are you keeping that legacy alive now?
Yeah, so we in 2007 we started the Impact Foundation, and our Impact Foundation it deals with children with critically and chronically illnesses right here in Indianapolis, and we're touched the lives over 200,000 residents of Indiana. And for my mother, we just had it about 2 weeks ago. My wife, who's a doctor, she was the chair of the event, and it was a mother's tender heart luncheon. When we invited about 75 mothers into the restaurant and gave them a champagne brunch just to, in honor of them and what they do to sacrifice for their families. So for me, like I said, I continue to give back. That's a part of my long-term plan. It's part of my DNA. And it's amazing. I mean, sometimes, I book something out 6 months in advance. Then the day comes, I'm like, I got so much other work. I wish I wouldn't have booked it. And then I go through the event and I'm just like, man, I need to do this. Right? I'm giving back to them, but in return, they're giving back to me because I'm seeing how fortunate I am. And I'm seeing, what my impact is on others. So I'm just, moved to continue to be out there and be involved in the community.
That's cool. I like that idea of just, and you're right. Sometimes we commit to something and in the moment we're busy, but I think I think that's The War of Art, if you've ever read that book, right? We hit the resistance, right? Every once in a while when we're supposed to be doing something great, that's when it seems like it's the hardest to just take the first step. But once you build that momentum, it gets easier and easier. Yeah. And so, again, you're coming back, you're the last few years, you've been really involved at Stacked Pickle and growing that business. You've got great plans over the next few years for growing the franchise model. I mean, it sounds like you've got some really good interest building there already. What would be your advice? Let's hit two pieces of advice. Okay. Your advice to that young athlete who's trying to make up his mind of what he's going to do. And then also that advice to that young entrepreneur who's trying to figure out what he wants to do. And maybe they're the same.
Yeah. So I kind of live by this quote, right? And it might be the same. So it goes, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And, as a young athlete, there's going to be a bunch of talented players out there. And at some point in time, whether it's college or in NFL, everyone's level of talent is going to be just about the same. And what separates the greats is their hard work, right? I played with Peyton Manning, arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And people will think, well, he's talented. Yeah, he was talented. He was 6'5". He had a father that played in the NFL. But I haven't seen anyone who worked and prepared as hard as he did. And on the business front, it's the same way. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging. People are going to be talented. They're going to have silver spoons in their mouths. They're going to come from families that affords them the ability to make mistakes and recover. And that might not be you. But so what? It still has been done before. And if you're willing to put in the work, take on the conferences, go to the networking events, right? Maybe intern, maybe make nothing just so you can learn how to do something. If you want to put in that work, right? That's the greatest equalizer there is hard work. So if you want to get through that and get that done, then the world is your oyster. Anything is possible.
So across platforms, whether it's sports or business or entrepreneurship, it really comes down to working hard. And I think you'd agree that working hard with intent, right? Sometimes we all know those guys that they may be hustling, but they're hustling doing all the wrong stuff because maybe they're not actually listening. They're not coachable, but they hustle. You know?
Yeah, I think John Wooten said it best. He said, never mistake activity with achievement, right? It's working hard, but working your plan, right? What's your plan? Right?
I see.
You have mentors. So it's like it's working hard, but it's also working smart.
And I see that a lot with small business owners, especially. I think to me, that's one of the key differentiators between a small business owner and an entrepreneur is exactly that. A small business owner is often very, very active. Right. But not necessarily achieving and actually working, right? And then they're just staying busy. And it's kind of that employee mentality of just being busy all the time and feeling good about it. Hey, I had a big checklist.
But it's amazing, right? Because, I look at what are you good at doing, right? And what is the cost for you to do everything else?
Right.
And you hire someone to handle that cost and you go do what you're good at and make 10 times, right? So it's this whole model of opportunity cost that you have to learn, understand, and grasp and really figure out like, all right, where's my time best served at? And where am I more profitable at? And so a lot of times, I defer stuff and delegate just because my time is best spent building a business, looking at the vision, interviewing franchisees, looking at different things for 3 years, 4 years from now. And not dealing with this HR issue that came up, right?
Right.
I want to be informed, but I don't necessarily have to be the one to deal with.
And that comes back to being able to lead a team, which is one of your core points. And so when you're building this team, and it takes, you said, to open and run a good restaurant, it takes like 40 people.
Sure.
How do you make sure that you, maintain your leadership position, right? Where you're not getting just in there becoming the bottle washer and the cook and the HR manager. And then two, and how are you inspiring each person to be their best self in that role?
Yeah, so we have constant communications and meetings throughout the week and throughout the month to make sure we check in and give you the tools that you need to be successful. And I always tell people when I go inside the restaurants, I'm there to visit with our guests. I'm there to talk to employees and shake hands and high fives. But I'm not there to manage, right? I didn't buy a job. I bought a business. And a lot of times when I go in, I still lead through my managers. So if I see a behavior that needs to be corrected, I'm not the one that's going to correct it. I'm going to talk to the manager and have him correct it. So when I'm going inside the store, that manager has the respect. And, he's the voice inside the restaurant. Despite of the fact I'm the owner, he's still the voice that you need to listen to.
That makes sense. And so part of being a good leader is remembering that that you've created an organizational chart, right? Like,
sure, yeah.
It's amazing how many times I've seen some leaders they set everything up, they have it all set up, and then they ruin it by like knocking over their own dominoes, right? And jumping and wanting to be the fixer. And, everyone has a position, right? And you got to be able to play that position at your best level.
And it's tempting to do that, right? But it's short term, right? And you have to look at the long term. What are the long term ramifications of you getting involved in an HR issue at store number one? Everyone's going to think, okay, Gary's interested in our drama. Let's call him every time two employees are bickering. Like, no, that's not my job. You have a GM, you have assistant managers, go to the chain of command, and then they'll communicate with me, and we'll make sure we take care of it.
So I want to hit one more of your statistics because I think this is fascinating, right? 707 tackles, right? You were good at what you did. 4 sacks. And this one though is my favorite. 1 defensive touchdown.
Yeah.
Do you remember that touchdown?
Yeah, absolutely. and it is funny. I think I had maybe 2.
Oh, okay.
I remember interception I ran for a touchdown. That was my first season against the Broncos. So it was like a rookie out there not knowing what I'm doing. I jump a route because I don't care. I catch an interception and I skirt off for 29 yards. So that was awesome. But a fumble recovery, I got in Houston against the Texans. It was an epic comeback. We were down 21 points in the fourth quarter. And Rosenfeld, he did the helicopter. I don't remember this play, but someone hit him in the air. He flips in the air and fumbles the ball. I pick it up and run 79 yards. I still think I'm tired from running that fast, but yeah, it was a fun time for sure.
And I think the reason I wanted to bring that up is because we just got done talking about how important it is to play your position,
right? But
sometimes you got to be ready for whatever opportunity comes your way,
sure.
Right? You were not hired and paid to score touchdowns.
No,
you were hired to stop the other team from scoring. But when the opportunity came, you better take it, right?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
It's funny, right? Because for me saying delegate out, right? For me saying have an organization doesn't mean you don't need to know what this person does, right? Or you shouldn't learn to be well-versed in what everyone's responsibility is, right? Because it may be a point where you're handing the ball and you need to run with it, right? And that's the opportunity where an interception, you hand the ball, and like you said, it's not my job. But still, like, I could do this, right? I know how to lead. So kind of having that whatever it takes mentality.
Absolutely. And I think the whatever it takes mentality is what this all boils down to, right? Mm-hmm. Because in business and in entrepreneurship and in sports, in the end, you've got to do whatever it takes to get to your goals, And so I want to one of the questions that I've asked my guests for a long time, because I think that business and entrepreneurship is all about creating the life that we want.
Sure.
And I know, you and your wife have 3 kids. I've got 4 kids, right? It's all, and we want to build a life for them. What is one major thing on your bucket list that you're going to accomplish here in the next 12 months?
Wow. The next 12 months bucket list. You know what? And this is going to be awesome and alludes to the book Winning that I keep on referencing. So my book is getting made in a movie. And we're in June 10th and 11th, I'm going out to LA to shoot a teaser to raise money to then have the shoot next year in my hometown of Glassboro, New Jersey. So that was a bucket list when I wrote the book some 7-8 years ago that, I wanted to make it a movie. And not for me being selfish, I want a movie about my life. I just think just because of the adversity I dealt with, just because of my mentality of whatever it takes and getting that done and showing people that, yeah, you can work hard and you can overcome a lot of adversity. I think it's going to help some people. So I'm very excited about that process. We've been reviewing scripts and looking at casting charts and everything. So it's something I'm passionate about, the getting done. Like I said, not for me selfishly, just because I think that, the movie is going to help people and help people overcome some tough situation and just show them that if they push through, man, it's some gold on the end of that tunnel.
Awesome. I'm going to connect with you offline about your book and about the movie, but I want to thank you for coming out on the show. This has been a really fun interview, and I think that any entrepreneur or any athlete can learn from your story and be motivated about the act as if mindset and learn from your journey. And so I'm excited to see your book become a movie, and your life story be out there more. So Gary, I want to thank you for coming out on BizNinja Radio, and any last words of advice?
I think we said it, man. Hard work beats talent. So
that's it.
Work hard, work smart, man. Get it done.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. Now go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at bizninja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.